Hi there and welcome to this beautiful spot on the Great South Bay. We're at the Piermont and we thank them for giving us this opportunity to hold this press conference here to deliver a pretty serious message today. I am joined with some of our local officials. First of all, I'd like to recognize we're in the incredible village of Babylon and its good mayor, Ralph Scardino. Ralph, right here. Also joining us from the Babylon Town Board, representing their great supervisor, Rich Schaefer, is Councilman Terrence McSweeney and Councilman Dwayne Gregory. And also joining us today, who we'll be hearing from too, is the operations manager of Fire Island Ferries, and that's Dave Anderson. I would first of all want to thank you for coming. It really is an absolutely gorgeous day here in the village. We are so lucky to live on and along the beautiful Great South Bay and nearby to the Atlantic Ocean and the surrounding waterways. We want everyone to enjoy being on the water, but it must be done so safely and intelligently, which is why we're here today, to stress the importance of keeping ourselves and our loved ones and other boaters that are out there enjoying the water, keeping everyone safe. Last week, we saw Fire Island Ferry Company deckhands pull 6 people from a capsized motorboat just off Ocean Beach. It was the second day on the job for one of the deckhands, and there are some that wonder about the experience of the person navigating that boat. 2 people died in waters off the Bronx when their jet skis collided last week. And I am getting more and more calls at the office about the problem with the jet skis out there in our canals, on the Connecticut River. It just is a dangerous, dangerous situation. The COVID-19 pandemic has kept people inside for months, and because of restrictions, has limited family recreation and travel this summer. Sales of personal watercraft have absolutely skyrocketed. I don't think you could find a jet ski today, no matter how much you were willing to pay for it. And according to the National Marine Manufacturers Association, the sale of personal watercraft was up in May by 75% from 2019. So where does that leave us? It shows us that recreational boating accidents, including those of personal watercraft, rose nationwide in the first 6 months of 2020 compared to 2019. And this comes from the Coast Guard's National Office of Boating Safety. Nationwide, fatal boating accidents went up 19% in the first 6 months of 2020. You know, we kicked off the summer season on Memorial Day, as we do every year, encouraging people to be safe out on the waters. But this summer is worse than it's ever been. And the majority of accidents are due to inexperience and alcohol, unfortunately. Our public safety officers, our harbor patrol, have stepped up patrols in our canals and our creeks because of the increased jet ski activity. And the only way to reduce these accidents is with training and experience. And I have to commend Gina Lineck. She, for years, has championed the cause of boater safety and having requisite training for those that are operating watercraft out on our waters. And this year, finally, after many years of her lobbying, Brianna's Law went into effect in January. And it requires all operators of motorized watercraft to complete a state-approved boating safety course by the year 2025. This is a phased-in 5-year approach, but let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's there, it's available. Do it now. Do not get behind the wheel of a personal watercraft, a boat, I don't care what it is, unless you've had the requisite training. It's only fair to yourself and everybody else that's out there on the waters. Personal watercraft and what to know. The operators must complete a New York State boater safety course before operating. The minimum age is 14. To operate a personal watercraft with an adult 18 years or older who has a New York State boater safety certificate, or 16 years of age if they're alone, but they need that boater's safety certificate. Personal watercrafts may only be operated in daylight hours. Operation is strictly prohibited between sunset and sunrise. So now I would ask our good mayor, Ralph Scordino, if he would come up and share a few words. Mayor?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Supervisor. I think what Angie has said, I'm going to echo a little bit, but I just want to give you a little microcosm of the reality that there are more boats on the bay. We have about 4,000 homes here in Babylon Village. We have 480 boat slips. Every boat slip is filled. And because of the weather in June and in July, we have more and more people that are utilizing their boats to get away and to enjoy the beautiful bay. It's one reason why a lot of residents live in Babylon Village and on the South Shore, is because of the bay. They can boat, sail, recreate, have a good time. But as Angie said before, it's very, very important that safety is at the utmost. We experienced a very bad boat accident 2 weeks ago over in the Lindenhurst Cut, and it all stemmed from somebody recklessly driving a boat. And just like we took the courses when we were younger about defensive driving, people should understand it's just like riding a car. Just because you're out in the open doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. Everyone that has a boat, a personal watercraft, should be taking the Coast Guard course for boating as a learning and refresher for you, what to do if something happens. Being on the bay most of my life, I can tell you, what you think of and what happens sometimes isn't always planned for because you're on the water. Anything can happen, from boat swamping, from a fire, from someone falling overboard. You don't have to go out of the way to enhance someone getting injured or fatally injured. I want to thank Angie for doing this, especially in Babylon Village. I'm sure the residents appreciate that, and I hope that the rest of the towns and villages on the South Shore do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you for noting the fact that the town of Islip is here in the village of Babylon, and in the town of Babylon, we really enjoy an incredible partnership between the two towns. And I think it is so important as we go forward and address issues of commonality that we do it together, that we send the same message to all of our residents. And I think it makes it that much more meaningful when we do that. Next, we're going to hear from the town of Babylon and two gentlemen who exemplify what public service is all about in the great town of Babylon, and that are Councilman Terrence McSweeney and Councilman Dwayne Gregory. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Supervisor. And I would just like to point out also the sentiments you just said about the town of Babylon and the town of Islip working together. And I've said this to you before, Angie. Maybe our fellow members of Congress and the federal government should take notice of how government's supposed to work together.
From your lips to God's ears.
So thank you, Angie, for putting this all together. And on behalf of Supervisor Rich Schaefer, my colleague Dwayne Gregory, and the rest of the town board, we would like to thank you for putting this all together, and especially putting this together in the village of Babylon, the town of Babylon. I'd like to thank the Piermont for hosting this event, and especially Mayor Scordino for allowing us to have this on a beautiful village property. The town of Babylon is known to have a great water-friendly community. We grow up on the beaches, in the pools, or by the pool. And on a normal summer weekend, you could see Hemlock Cove packed with people enjoying their boats and swimming in the bay. Children running around their backyards, in their pools, with their floaties, and hanging out with their friends. This year, as Angie has noted, we have seen a higher increase in water activities between boating, surfing, swimming, kayaking, paddleboarding, etc., due to the COVID-19. This, of course, comes with a higher chance of accidents. Recently, a 25-year-old Lindenhurst native, Zach McCarthy, who, like many other Babylon residents, spent his life on the water, was tragically killed in a boat crash. It is hard to see these young people leave us so early, when they have so much potential to live their life to the fullest. That's why we are asking everyone, before you get on a boat, make sure that everyone has a life vest, that you are sober and you remain sober while on the boat, and that all safety precautions are checked and that children and the elderly are accounted for. As Public Safety Chairman for the Town of Babylon, I work closely with our Bay Constables, and as I am sure Supervisor Carpenter and Mayor Scordino work closely with their enforcement teams. They are out there and they are on high alert. Not only do you have to keep an eye out when you're on the water, but also when you're in your backyards. If you're lucky enough to have a pool or have a friend with a pool and have children, you must be advised to know that drowning is a silent event. It is a silent killer. Don't assume you will hear a child who is in trouble in the water. Parents must closely supervise their children around the water and know how to perform CPR. 9 out of 10 drowning deaths happen when a caregiver is supervising but not paying attention. Assign a designated water watcher. Please do the right thing and make sure that when you go out there and enjoy everything on the beaches, the bay, and the pools that have to offer, that you all come home together and well. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Councilman Dwayne Gregory.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with Supervisor Carpenter and Mayor Scordino and Fire Island Ferries, and of course my colleague in the town government. Just to reemphasize the point that we live here on a beautiful Long Island, and we want to enjoy the water. And we know that people are anxious and itching to get out to enjoy the waterways and pools, but we should be cautious and not make those or recreation or getting out on the water more hazardous than it already is. We can't be careless. We can't let our guards down. We have to be extra cautious. And if we can do that, people can still enjoy the waterways, and we'll prevent unnecessary deaths. So thank you for re-emphasizing and emphasizing this important lesson here on Long Island, so we can really enjoy what we have. It's really a treasure. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilman, both of you, and for emphasizing pools too. It's not just being out on the bay or in the ocean. Certainly accidents, tragedies can happen. It doesn't have to happen in 6 feet of water. It can happen in 8 inches of water. You need to be vigilant. And sitting there with your kids by the pool and watching them doesn't mean sitting there with your iPhone texting, because a distracted parent is a dangerous thing. You need to be watching all the time. And someone who is out there on our bays on a consistent basis, the Director of Operations for Fire Island Ferries, he sees it every single day, the comings and goings of boaters, some with very, very little experience, some of the jet skiers getting in the wake, causing all kinds of issues. So I'd ask if you would come share some of that with us today, Dave Anderson, who's the Operation Manager for Fire Island Ferries.
Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter, Mayor Scordino, Councilman Gregory, and Councilman McSweeney. Currently, the overcrowded sharing waterways is a huge topic button on our radar right now. One of the things that became a topic on the Coast Guard's radar, inappropriate behavior, the inability to maintain a proper lookout, vessel speed, alcohol, and not having any type of training. Reynolds Towing, who represents Boat US, which is a towing company here on the South Shore of Long Island, has seen an increase in their calls for distressed people on recreational boats for the month of June and July. Now, keep in mind, with the increase in telephone traffic and radio traffic for distress, that was without the addition of the Jones Beach Air Show and the 4th of July fireworks throughout the South Shore. That's another alarming number. So what do we do about this? Whenever you have an increase in traffic or anything, regardless of what it is, this time we're talking about recreational and personal watercraft traffic. So when you have an increase in those numbers, you have an increase in risk. And the best way to combat that risk is, how are you going to mitigate it? Well, how are we going to mitigate it? We're going to mitigate it through training. We're going to mitigate it through education. We're going to mitigate it through outreach. Outreach through the police departments, the local township harbor patrols, business vendors, personal boat sales. So back in March and April, when this pandemic hit and New York went into their shelter in place, there was a tremendous influx of people rushing to get their private boats in the water for people who did own them. With the threat of the towns and county threatening and did shut down local marinas and boat ramps, people just wanted to get their boats in because they realized this was going to be a different type of summer. For those who did not own a boat, they went out and bought boats. Keep in mind, you don't need any type of training or certification to go buy a boat. Anyone can go buy a boat. There are also some of the local boat dealerships have been swept clean of their inventory because of all the boat sales this past summer. Additionally, scary to think that there are companies out there, internet companies, where you can go on and you can rent a boat. It's a boat share, they're boat sharing apps. You don't need a license. They give you about 30 seconds worth of training. You can rent a boat of any size and they'll send you out there on your way. You do also have the ability to request a licensed captain to go with you. Now, in regards to the ferry company, we are always on our guard. There's a rule book that the Coast Guard abides by for rules of the road. It's called CG 169. Now, I often joke about the Great South Bay that when it comes to the rules of the road, you just have to throw it out the window and do whatever it takes to protect yourself and your passengers. Because most of these people that are out here are operating reckless, especially the jet ski operators. A jet ski operator can get a jet ski up to 70 miles an hour. You know how long it takes to stop something going 70 miles an hour? A real long time. And with the signing by the governor, New York State governor, last August of Breanna's law, that's a step in the right direction. Like Supervisor Carpenter said, by 2025, anyone who is going to be operating a personal watercraft or a recreational vessel is going to have some type of certification or training. We encourage people to use the waterway. We want you to be responsible, because if everybody's responsible, that death rate will plummet. And that's where we'd like to be. Thank you very much.
Dave, thank you so much for your passion and advocacy and all of the work that you've done. He chaired that association as its president, and he has not lost his commitment and dedication to trying to keep everybody safe out on the waterways. Before I open it to questions, I just want to thank Mayor Scordino. He talked about that horrific accident that happened in Lindenhurst. And what I feel, when you hear about something like that, it really breaks your heart. But when you hear that it could have been avoidable, that there was alcohol involved, or the person was inexperienced or not trained, it is unfathomable and totally inexcusable. So hopefully, along with everything you've heard here today, we will get the word out. We will continue with that advocacy and hopefully making a very, very positive difference. So when everyone's out on our beautiful waters, they do it and do it safely.